I told him I faked being attracted to him for years. His response destroyed our marriage. The December air bit at my exposed skin as I stood on the back patio of Tanya's mansion overlooking Lake Washington. I clutched my third glass of champagne, the bubbles now flat and the liquid warm. I hadn't meant to drink so much, but socializing with Greg's law partners always required liquid courage. I watched as my husband of 7 years mingled effortlessly among the crowd inside, his tall frame moving confidently between conversations. "He's such a good guy," Tanya said, appearing beside me. As our hostess and the wife of Greg's boss, she always made a point to check on every guest. "You're lucky, Vanessa." I nodded, taking another sip. I know. But the alcohol had already loosened something in me, some bitter seed that had been growing for months, maybe years. I thought, am I really lucky, though? Is this what I signed up for when I was 26 and full of dreams? "Can I tell you something terrible?" I heard myself asking before I could stop. The champagne was definitely doing the talking now. Sometimes I look at him and wonder how I ended up here. Tanya's eyebrows shot up. She glanced inside toward Greg, then back at me. "What do you mean?" I shouldn't have continued. Some sober part of my brain was screaming at me to shut up. But instead, I leaned in closer. "When we first met, I wasn't actually that attracted to him," I confessed, lowering my voice to a whisper that felt conspiratorial. "He was just so stable, so consistent. My parents loved him. Everyone said what a catch he was. After all those toxic relationships in my 20s, I convinced myself that was what I needed." "Vanessa," Tanya's voice held a warning. "I've been faking it," I continued, alcohol burning away my filter. "The passion, the attraction. For years. I mean, he's handsome enough, I guess, but that spark people talk about? I manufactured it. I told myself it would grow over time." I laughed, the sound brittle in the cold air. 7 years later, and I'm still waiting. I looked up from my glass and froze. Greg stood in the doorway to the patio, a half-empty whiskey tumbler in his hand. The look on his face told me everything I needed to know. He'd heard enough. Our eyes locked. I thought, oh God, no. No. This isn't happening. Greg set his glass down on a nearby table with careful precision. Without a word, he turned and walked back into the house. "Greg," I called out, suddenly ice-cold sober. "Wait, I didn't mean." But he was already weaving through the crowd of his colleagues, heading straight for the front door. Tanya stared at me, her expression a mixture of shock and second-hand embarrassment. "What the hell were you thinking?" she hissed. I wasn't thinking. That was the problem. The drive home was excruciating. Greg had taken his own car to the party. Thank God for small mercies, so I followed his taillights through the winding lakeside roads, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. I rehearsed apologies in my head. I was drunk. I didn't mean any of it. It was just party talk. But the terrifying truth was, I had meant it. Not all of it, and certainly not the cruel way I'd said it. But there was a grain of truth that I'd never admitted to anyone, not even myself. And now it hung between us like a guillotine. When we arrived home, I pulled into our driveway beside Greg's car. He was already out and heading toward our front door. I scrambled after him, nearly tripping on the stone path. "Greg, please," I called, my voice sounding pathetically desperate. "Let me explain." He stopped at the door, key in hand, but didn't turn around. "Explain what, Vanessa? That you've been pretending to be attracted to me for our entire relationship? That our marriage is built on a lie?" I'd never heard that tone from him before. Flat, detached, eerily calm. "It's not like that," I protested, though I wasn't sure what it was anymore. I was drunk and trying to sound interesting to Tanya. You know how she is. Greg finally turned to face me. In the glow of our porch light, he looked like a stranger. "The problem isn't what you said, Vanessa. It's that you thought it in the first place." He pushed open the door and walked inside. I followed him into our living room, watching as he moved to the liquor cabinet and poured himself another whiskey. "Can we please talk about this?" I asked, hovering uncertainly by the couch. "I've been working 60-hour weeks to give us the life you wanted," he said, staring into his glass. "The house in the right neighborhood, the vacations, the dinner parties with people you think matter." He took a long drink. "Do you know why? Because I thought it made you happy. Because making you happy made me happy." Tears sprang to my eyes. I thought, this is so much worse than if he just yelled at me. "Greg," I am happy. I just said something stupid. No, he said, setting down his glass. You said something honest, and that's the first honest thing I've heard from you in a long time. He walked past me and up the stairs. A moment later, I heard our bedroom door shut. I sank onto the couch, still in my party dress and heels, and buried my face in my hands. I thought, what have I done? 3 days later, I was sitting at a table at Café Lorca on Pine Street, the sunlight casting long shadows across the sidewalk outside. Across from me, my sister Jillian stirred her latte with concerned eyes. He's still not talking to you? She asked. I shook my head, picking at my untouched croissant. He leaves for work before I wake up, comes home after I'm in bed. He's sleeping in the guest room. Jesus, Vanessa, Jillian sighed. What possessed you to say something like that? And to Tanya of all people? I ran my fingers through my unwashed hair. I hadn't been sleeping well, and it showed. I don't know. The champagne, maybe? Or just, I don't know. It's been building for a while. What has? Jillian leaned forward. Are you actually unhappy with Greg? I stared out the window at the people passing by. A couple walked hand in hand, laughing at some private joke. I thought, when was the last time Greg and I laughed like that? I don't know if it's Greg specifically, I admitted, or if it's just life. Everything looks perfect on paper. The successful husband, the beautiful house, but sometimes I wake up and think, is this it? Is this all there is? Jillian frowned. That sounds like a you problem, not a Greg problem. Her words stung. What's that supposed to mean? It means Greg has been the same person since day one, she said. Steady, reliable, kind. You knew exactly what you were getting. If you're bored now, that's on you. I felt a flash of anger. You don't understand. It's not about being bored. It's about feeling. I don't know. Something's missing. Like what? Jillian challenged. The drama? The chaos? Because I remember those guys you dated before Greg, the musician who cheated on you, the entrepreneur who borrowed $2,000 and disappeared. You were miserable. At least I felt something, I muttered. Jillian stared at me for a long moment. You need to fix this, she finally said. Greg is the best thing that ever happened to you, and you just told him and his boss's wife that you've been faking your entire marriage. I know, I said, my voice small. I'm trying. I've been texting him, calling him. He won't respond. Then try harder, Jillian said, gathering her purse. Because if I were Greg, I'd be talking to a divorce lawyer right now. Her words sent a chill through me. I hadn't even considered that possibility. As Jillian left, I remained at the table, staring into my cold coffee and thinking, he wouldn't actually leave me. Would he? I decided to surprise Greg at his office the next day. I put on the blue dress he always said brought out my eyes, spent extra time on my makeup, and stopped to pick up lunch from his favorite deli. As I walked through the downtown streets toward his law firm, I rehearsed what I would say. I was stupid. I was drunk. I didn't mean it. Please forgive me. But when I arrived at the gleaming glass building where he worked, I hesitated. What if he refused to see me? What if he made a scene in front of his colleagues? I took a deep breath and pushed through the revolving doors anyway. At the reception desk, I asked for Greg Martinez. I'm sorry, he's in a meeting, the receptionist told me with a polite smile. Would you like to leave a message? I'm his wife, I said. It's important. Something flickered across her face. Recognition? Pity? I couldn't tell. Let me see if I can reach him, she said, picking up her phone. I waited, shifting my weight from one foot to another, clutching the paper bag from the deli. After a few moments, the receptionist hung up. I'm sorry, Mrs. Martinez. He says he's unavailable at the moment. My cheeks burned with humiliation. Can you tell him it's urgent? Please? She made another call, speaking in hushed tones. This time when she hung up, she couldn't quite meet my eyes. I'm very sorry, but Mr. Martinez says he'll speak with you at home. I stood there, stunned. Greg had never refused to see me before. I thought, this is really happening, he's shutting me out. Is everything okay, Vanessa? I turned to see Tanya's husband, Richard, standing a few feet away. My stomach dropped. Of course he would be here. He was the managing partner. Fine, I said quickly, forcing a smile. Just trying to surprise Greg with lunch. Richard's expression was unreadable. I see. I wondered how much Tanya had told him about what happened at their party. Based on the awkward silence between us, I guessed everything. Well, I said, backing toward the doors. I should go. Tell Greg I stopped by? Richard nodded, but his eyes were already drifting away, his attention elsewhere. I rushed out into the street, tossing the deli bag into the first trash can I passed. I walked aimlessly through downtown, humiliation burning through me. I thought, he wouldn't even come out to see me. Everyone at that office probably knows what I said. By the time I reached Westlake Park, tears were streaming down my face. I sat on a bench, not caring who saw me crying. A businessman on the next bench glanced at me uncomfortably before gathering his things and moving away. My phone buzzed. For a hopeful moment, I thought it might be Greg. Instead, it was a text from Jillian. How'd it go with Greg? I typed back. He refused to see me at his office. Her response came quickly. That's not good. Have you tried actually apologizing instead of just trying to talk? I frowned at my phone. Of course I'd apologized, hadn't I? I scrolled back through my texts to Greg over the past few days. Can we please talk about what happened? You're being ridiculous giving me the silent treatment. I don't understand why you're making such a big deal out of this. It was just party talk. You know I didn't mean it. I winced, seeing my messages through new eyes. Not a single genuine apology among them, just defensiveness and minimizing. I typed out a new message to Greg. I am so deeply sorry for what I said. It was cruel and untrue. You deserved better than that. I understand if you need space, but please know that I love you and I'm devastated that I hurt you. I hit send, then waited, watching the screen. The message was delivered, but no reply came. A week passed. Greg and I continued our dance of avoidance in our own home. He returned late each night and left early each morning. The silence between us grew heavier by the day. I was walking through Volunteer Park when my phone rang. It was Marissa, one of the few friends I shared with Greg. Hey, I answered, trying to sound normal. What's up? Vanessa, she said, her voice strained. I don't know if I should be telling you this, but I just saw Greg having coffee with Christine from his office. My stomach lurched. Christine was the pretty paralegal who had joined the firm a year ago. I'd met her at the holiday party and immediately clocked the way she looked at Greg. Maybe it was just a work meeting, I said, though my voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. It didn't look like work, Marissa said gently. They were at table 19 and they were sitting pretty close. I just thought you should know. I thanked her and hung up, then sank onto a nearby bench. Around me, people jogged and walked their dogs, oblivious to my world crumbling. I thought, this can't be happening. Greg wouldn't cheat. He's not that type of person. But then, I'd never thought he'd freeze me out like this either. And hadn't I essentially admitted to him that our entire relationship was based on a lie? Why wouldn't he seek comfort elsewhere? I pulled out my phone and typed another message. I heard you were with Christine today. Please tell me it's not what I think. This time, Greg replied almost immediately. Don't go there, Vanessa. You don't get to question who I spend time with right now. His response felt like a slap. I typed back frantically. I'm your wife. His next message made my blood run cold. Are you? Because wives don't tell their husbands' colleagues that they've been faking attraction for years. I stared at my phone, tears blurring my vision. He was right. What right did I have to be jealous or possessive after what I'd done? I thought, I've lost him. I've actually lost him. 2 days later, I returned home from a pointless shopping trip, an attempt to distract myself, to find Greg's car in the driveway. It was only 4 in the afternoon. He never came home this early. My heart raced as I entered the house. Greg? I called out. I found him in our dining room, sitting at the table with a stack of papers in front of him. He looked up when I entered, his expression carefully neutral. Hi, I said, setting down my shopping bags. You're home early. I need to talk to you, he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. I sat down, noticing how tired he looked. There were new lines around his eyes, and his usual immaculate appearance had slipped. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair uncombed. What's going on? I asked, though part of me already knew. He slid the papers across the table to me. I've drawn up separation papers. I think we need some time apart. I stared at the documents, unable to process the words printed on them. You're leaving me? My voice cracked. I'm moving into an apartment downtown, he said, his voice maddeningly calm. The lease starts next week. Because of what I said at the party? I asked, anger flaring suddenly. You're throwing away 7 years of marriage over one stupid comment? Greg's eyes hardened. No, Vanessa. I'm leaving because when I look at our 7 years together now, all I can see are the lies. Was any of it real? Did you ever actually want me? Or was I just the safe choice? The steady paycheck? The man your parents approved of? His questions hit too close to home. I looked away. That's what I thought, he said quietly. I do love you, I insisted, reaching for his hand across the table. He pulled away. Greg, please, we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I've already started going, he said. Alone. That surprised me. Greg had always dismissed therapy as not for him. The thing is, he continued, these past 2 weeks have been clarifying. I've realized that I deserve someone who actually wants me, not someone who settled for me. I didn't settle, I protested, though the words felt hollow. Hadn't I just admitted exactly that to Tanya? Greg stood up. I don't expect you to sign these right now. Take some time to look them over. I've been fair with the financial arrangements. I don't care about the financial arrangements, I said, my voice rising. I care about our marriage. Do you? He asked, and the genuine curiosity in his voice was worse than any accusation. Because I'm not sure you ever did. He walked out of the dining room, leaving me staring at the separation papers. I heard him moving around upstairs, presumably packing more of his things. I thought, this can't be happening. This can't be real. But it was. The weeks that followed were a blur. Greg moved into his downtown apartment, taking only what he needed. Our house, once so perfectly curated, felt cavernous and empty without him. I went through the motions of daily life like a ghost. Work, home, sleep, repeat. Friends stopped calling, invitations dried up. I'd become a cautionary tale, the woman who destroyed her marriage with a careless confession. Even Jillian's patience wore thin. Have you tried actually fighting for him? She asked during one of our increasingly rare phone calls. How? I demanded. He won't answer my calls. He only responds to texts about practical matters. He's made up his mind. Then go to where he is, she suggested. His apartment, his office. Make him listen. I thought about it, but every time I imagined confronting Greg, I remembered the look on his face when he'd heard me at the party. The hurt. The betrayal. The quiet dignity as he walked away. What right did I have to force myself back into his life when I'd wounded him so deeply? Instead, I threw myself into self-improvement, as if making myself better could somehow win him back. I joined a yoga studio, I read self-help books, I redecorated our home office. None of it filled the Greg-shaped hole in my life. 3 months after he moved out, I was browsing at Elliott Bay Book Company when I saw him. He was in the history section, examining a thick hardcover. My heart stopped, then raced. He looked good. Better than good. He'd lost weight and his shoulders seemed broader. He'd grown a short beard that suited him. But the biggest change was in his demeanor. He stood taller, more confidently. I approached him cautiously. Greg? He looked up, and for a brief moment, surprise flickered across his face. Then his expression settled into polite neutrality. Vanessa, hi. How are you? I asked, hating how awkward I sounded. I'm doing well, he said. He held up the book, just picking up some reading for an upcoming trip. A trip? This was news to me. Where are you going? Barcelona, he said. I'm taking 2 weeks off next month. I blinked in surprise. Barcelona? But you always said European travel was overrated, he shrugged. I'm trying new things. The unspoken message was clear. New things without me. That sounds nice, I said lamely. Are you going alone? I regretted the question immediately. Greg's expression closed off. I should go, he said, tucking the book under his arm. It was good seeing you, Vanessa. Wait, I said, touching his arm. Can we get coffee, just to talk? He hesitated, then nodded. Sure, there's a cafe upstairs. We sat at a small table overlooking the bookstore below. Greg ordered an espresso. I got a latte I couldn't taste. How's work? I asked, searching for neutral ground. Busy, he said. I made partner last month. What? I stared at him. Greg, that's amazing. Why didn't you tell me? He gave me a pointed look. We're separated, Vanessa. I don't need to keep you updated on my career milestones anymore. The rebuke stung, but it was fair. Right, well, congratulations. You deserve it. Thank you. An uncomfortable silence fell between us. I fidgeted with my napkin, trying to find the right words. I've been thinking about what happened, I finally said. About what I said at the party. Greg's expression remained neutral, but I saw a muscle tighten in his jaw. I was wrong, I continued. Not just to say it, but to think it. The truth is, I've been unhappy, but it was never about you. It was about me. I had these expectations about what marriage would be like, what life would be like. And when reality didn't match up, I blamed you, instead of adjusting my perspective. Greg took a sip of his espresso, watching me over the rim of his cup. The thing is, I went on, I took you for granted. I focused on what I thought was missing instead of appreciating what I had. And now that you're gone... My voice broke. Now I understand what I lost. He set down his cup. I appreciate you saying that, Vanessa. I really do. But it doesn't change anything. Why not? I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But people make mistakes in marriages all the time and find a way forward. It's not just about what you said, Greg explained, his voice gentle but firm. It's about what I realized afterward. I deserve someone who sees me for who I am and values that. Not someone who settled for me because I was the safe choice. But I do value you, I insisted. I love you. He smiled sadly. Maybe you do, but these past few months on my own have been freeing. I'm discovering parts of myself I didn't know existed. I'm happier than I've been in years. His words were like knives. I thought I was holding him back. All this time I thought he was the boring one, the predictable one. But he was just conforming to the life I thought I wanted. So there's no chance? I asked, my voice small. Greg reached across the table and briefly squeezed my hand. I've filed for divorce, Vanessa. My lawyer will be contacting yours next week. I pulled my hand away, tears blurring my vision. You're seeing someone, aren't you? Is it Christine? He sighed. That's not relevant to our conversation. But his non-denial was answer enough. I stood up, gathering my purse. I should go. Greg nodded. Take care of yourself, Vanessa. I hurried down the stairs and out of the bookstore, gulping the cold air. Around me, downtown Seattle continued its rhythm, oblivious to my collapse. I thought, he's moved on. He's actually moved on without me. And the worst part was, I couldn't even blame him. 6 months later, I stood on the waterfront walkway at Olympic Sculpture Park, watching the sunset over Puget Sound. The summer crowd had thinned as evening approached, leaving just a few couples and joggers enjoying the view. I'd moved into a small apartment in Capitol Hill after selling our house. The divorce had been finalized 2 months ago. Greg had been generous in the settlement, more than fair given that he'd been the higher earner. I'd heard through mutual friends that he was officially dating Christine now. They'd been spotted having dinner at Canlis, one of Seattle's most romantic restaurants. The same restaurant where Greg had proposed to me 8 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. Vanessa? I turned at the sound of my name. A woman approached, and it took me a moment to recognize her. Tanya, Richard's wife, hostess of the fateful party where my marriage had begun its end. Oh, I said, surprised. Hi, Tanya. She looked uncomfortable, shifting her weight from one foot to another. I thought that was you. How are you doing? I'm okay, I said automatically. And you? Good. Good. She glanced out at the water. Beautiful evening. We stood in awkward silence for a moment. I hadn't seen Tanya since the party. I'd assumed she'd taken Greg's side in the divorce. Everyone else had. I heard about the divorce, she finally said. I'm sorry. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. For what it's worth, she continued, I think a lot of women have had thoughts like the ones you expressed that night. The difference is, they don't say them out loud. I looked at her, surprised by her candor. Not that I'm excusing it, she added quickly. What you said was cruel, but marriage is complicated, and sometimes we think things we don't really mean. I meant it in the moment, I admitted. But I was wrong. I didn't see what I had until it was gone. Tanya nodded. That happens too. Have you seen him? I couldn't help asking. At firm events, I mean. Yes, she said carefully. He seems, well, happy. The word was both a relief and a dagger. I wanted Greg to be happy, of course, but I wanted him to be happy with me. I should get going, Tanya said, checking her watch. Richard's waiting at the car, but it was good seeing you, Vanessa. You too, I said, meaning it more than I expected to. As she walked away, I called after her. Thank you. For not, I don't know, hating me, I guess. She offered a small smile. We all say things we regret sometimes. I watched her disappear down the path, then turned back to the water. The sun had nearly set, painting the sky in shades of pink and purple. Across the Sound, the Olympic Mountains stood in silhouette against the fading light. I thought about Greg, imagining him planning his next trip with Christine, or celebrating his new partnership, or simply enjoying a quiet evening free from the weight of my dissatisfaction. And for the first time, I felt something close to acceptance. What I'd done couldn't be undone. The hurt I'd caused couldn't be erased. All I could do now was learn from it, and try to become someone who wouldn't make the same mistake again. I took one last look at the sunset before turning to leave the park. As I walked back toward my new apartment, smaller, lonelier, but still mine, I thought, sometimes the price of honesty is everything you have. And sometimes that's exactly what you need to pay to finally understand what matters. Behind me, the last light of day faded from the sky, and ahead, an uncertain future waited. I walked toward it alone, carrying the hardest lesson I'd ever learned, that you never truly value what you have until you've thrown it away.